Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Path of Alchemy, Energetic Healing and the World of Natural Magic, by Mark Stavish, narrated by Chris Sorensen. Publisher's Note: this audiobook refers to charts, diagrams, and appendices included in the print and ebook editions of the book. Notice: use caution and common sense while carrying out the instructions and recipes found in this book. Herbal products must be prepared and used with care. Many people are allergic to certain plants. Always make sure that the plants you are working with are safe to ingest and that you will not have any allergic reactions to working with them. Check with a licensed healthcare professional before ingesting any herbal product. This book is no substitute for proper medical care. Consult a doctor for any serious health problems. You are responsible for your health. The publisher assumes no responsibility for injuries occurring as a result of following the instructions in this book, nor for the efficacy of the recipes. Foreword. My early steps on the alchemical path occurred when I was less than 10 years of age. That would have been at the latest 1962. The year that a German alchemist, Albert Riedel, opened a now legendary school in Utah, the Paracelsus Research Society. In 1984, I entered the beginner's class of his school to take further steps on this path and was initiated into the oral tradition of alchemy by Frater Albertus. I was led to his school by the book Praxis Spagyrica Philosophica. It was the first of perhaps 100 books concerning alchemy I had searched to show that the author had personal knowledge about how to actually do anything. By way of comparison, this book is much more open and direct, and it provides a step-by-step plan for study and work. Like Albertus's Praxis Spagyrica Philosophica and his later work, The Alchemist's Handbook, The Path of Alchemy shows you how to grind medicinal herbs with a mortar and pestle and create tinctures that help to heal and balance mind and body. Certainly, this is a practical book, as hands-on as you can hope for. It is also a comforting book. By this I mean that it does not contain hard-to-place symbolism or just hint at things that really could be said directly. If you can brew a pot of coffee, you can begin doing the laboratory work detailed here. If you can afford the few dollars needed to buy a copy of The Path of Alchemy, you should be able to assemble all of the tools you need to perform experiments. If the fact that the experiments are not complicated suggests to you that they cannot be very revealing, then please hang on for a great ride. The Path of Alchemy is quite positive and affirmative, but there are a few no's. No oaths, no secrecy, no gurus, no master, no limits on your imagination and freedom. No guarantees either, save one. No effort, no result. Making this book is exactly right for today's student. It packs all of the transformational dynamite that Frater Albertus's classic, The Alchemist's Handbook, delivered in 1960. However, unlike that wonderful little book, this revealing book satisfies our culture's need for speed. The Path of Alchemy is designed to be useful now for anyone willing to give a bit of joyful attention and effort. This book is a tool for personal transformation. The style and format are contemporary, which makes it easier to begin working on your alchemical realization than if you were hearing what has previously been available. I say this with the greatest respect for those teachers who have gone before on this path, for without their previous efforts, it would not be possible to open wider the doors to the alchemical temple. The author of this book you are now hearing owes much to Frater Albertus, as well as to other generous teachers, most notably Jean Dubuis. Great teachers intend that those who come after them will accomplish even greater things. As alchemy is the work of evolution, one should not be surprised that changes come one after the other and with increasing speed. Alchemy is transformational, healing, balancing. The great art has not yet been fully revealed in its implications for planetary harmony. Do you imagine that this book or another one will describe how to change the planet with alchemical healing, or that somehow it is necessary to get all of the presidents, kings, popes, and potentates to embrace an ancient art and science in a modern wrapping? The legendary stone of the philosophers is said to be such in its power and nature that only a few grains are necessary to change a mass of lead into the purest gold. If the potential for such rapid evolution exists in the metallic kingdom, can we imagine that such a power might exist in regard to the human condition? The culture in much of our planet today is one of increasing information. In fact, it has increased so much that we risk being overloaded to the point that we become lost and detached from what is real. The speed of discovery increases moment by moment, and it seems that the stresses in our lives accelerate at a similar rate. Our families, our countries, and our planet seem to be bursting at the seams with pressure, with no desirable end in sight. The need for urgency and tenderness in planetary transformation seems necessary when we survey the widespread pain and suffering that is the human condition. There is so much to hope for when we experience true love and friendship, those treasures beyond price, and as we reflect on the beauty of nature expressed in each tender flower, in the awesome grace and power of a lion, in the delicacy of a butterfly, and in the system and order expressed in a crystal grown within the skin of our planet. The harmony transcribed from the celestial spheres by Beethoven and others, the sculpture and paintings of the master artists, the great dream stories of Native American shamans, which bring the heights of human aspiration one step closer to Earth, each suggests that creative transformation is something that we are inherently skilled enough to accomplish to satisfy our need for spiritual sustenance. Yet the myriad effects of ignorance, deprivation, disease, and greed bear evidence of our imbalance and suggest that our creative realization is not yet complete. Until such time, the alchemical fire will not be extinguished. The drama of creation, transformation, evolution, and healing will play out in your own heart and mind as you dare to discover your true nature and role in this great work. Perhaps then you will become a vehicle for accelerating evolution in the four kingdoms. I have been very fortunate at every step on my own alchemical journey to have found those generous individuals who were willing and able to help people. Others who had gone before these teachers had helped them, and they in turn continued the chain of good deeds and service. The Path of Alchemy is one visible expression of a tradition of care and concern for the well-being of humanity. It is my sincere hope that you will share my fortune, not measured in gold or material accomplishment, but rather in a sense of purpose and of daily revelation and affirmation of the goodness of life and the infusion of hope and purpose. Carry on and keep up the good work that you have already begun. Russell House, Wheaton, Illinois, 2005. Introduction. The writing of the Path of Alchemy has been a long and interesting journey. Many of its listeners will recognize material from several online articles of mine that have become standard reading on the internet since their posting in the late 1990s. The articles forming the core of the technical section were originally written at the request of Ariadne's Web, a journal well known among students of Rosicrucianism, Martinism, the Knights Templar, and similar initiatic lines of the Western esoteric traditions. Initially, only one article was to be produced, but the decision came quickly to create a trilogy and give a complete and thorough overview, no matter how brief, on the basics of plant alchemy, or more accurately, spagyrics. What was thought of as being a short course on plant alchemy for a small audience quickly became a phenomenon. The articles were reprinted in the Rosicrucian Beacon, the official publication of the Rosicrucian Order, Amorc, for its British and English-speaking European and African members, over several issues in 1998. Amorc's Grand Lodge of the Netherlands published the articles in translation from 2000 to 2001 in its journal De Roche, or The Rose. For many devoted, even long-time students of alchemy, these 3 articles have done more to assist them on their practical paths than most of the material that had been around for decades. Many students of alchemy quickly find themselves limited by the amount of available material in print on practical laboratory techniques. While there is still a great deal more available as of this writing than when these articles were initially written, aspiring alchemists still find themselves struggling with 2 principal texts: The Alchemist's Handbook by Frater Albertus and the Practical Handbook of Plant Alchemy by Manfred Junius. Both books are written by masters of the art and explain a great deal in clear and concise language. However, students who have read both books will quickly realize that at points Albertus gives his readers not enough information, while Junius gives too much. Both authors require laboratory equipment to do the work, and they both leave out some simple yet very powerful experiments that can be done with little more than kitchen supplies. The Path of Alchemy seems to walk the thin middle ground between these giants, and like Baby Bear's porridge, it is just right in the information department. In addition to the familiar text, new illustrations make the operations clear to the first-time student. Meditations and visualizations are clearly articulated so that these often difficult and highly symbolic subjects can have meaning on the practical as well as spiritual level. Each chapter has a summary, assignments, and meditative practices specific to the material in that chapter. It is to Russell House that I owe a great debt of gratitude, as his generous assistance helped make much of this material more precise and practical on its initial writing. Russell and his wife Sue are well known to students of alchemy, as they were central figures in the now-defunct alchemical Kabbalistic organization, the Philosophers of Nature, PON. The Philosophers of Nature was started in France in 1978 by Jean Dubuis, a high-ranking member of the French jurisdiction of Amorc, and its related Martinist organization, the Traditional Martinist Order, TMO. As a result of his fame in alchemical research with emphasis on the Flamel path, Dubuis was interviewed for the BBC documentary Discovering the Real World of Harry Potter, 2002, and he is legendary for having the largest Martinist lodge, Heptad, in Paris in the 1970s, with 200 members. The highest class of about 50 were involved in practical works of theurgy or ceremonial magic, similar to those undertaken by Martinus Pasqualis more than 200 years earlier. They were also heavily influenced by the cosmic doctrine written by Dion Fortune. Dubuis left his Rosicrucian and Martinist affiliations to pursue and promote what he called the disoccultizing of esotericism. Feeling that much of what was occurring in European circles was simply secrecy for the sake of secrecy, he felt that it no longer served any purpose. This book appears with much the same spirit, in that it was written to make as clear as possible the basic methods of alchemy for those who desire to learn. All is stated, there are no blinds, and it holds nothing back. The reason for this is simple. Each must be responsible for his or her own becoming. Since no one can do the work for another, we must all have access to methods and techniques that will help us on our personal path of return. Alchemy is often referred to as women's work and child's play, in that it involves many of the same skills and temperatures, for plant work anyway, found in cooking. One needs an open and joyous heart, as a child at play when undertaking the work. However, I would be remiss if I did not include some safety guidelines, particularly for those who wish to go on to work with minerals. Remember, safety is first and not an option. 1. Check your local ordinances and state guidelines to see what is permissible in your area when working with chemicals or distilling wine. 2. Listen to all directions for suggested experiments several times before conducting the actual experiment. Visualize the process, write it out, and be familiar with each step required. 3. Do not use the same tools or cookware for eating that you use for alchemical experiments. 4. Fire is always a potential hazard. Keep a fire extinguisher or fire blanket nearby and know how to use them in case you ever need to. Keep a large box of baking soda on hand should an alcohol spill catch fire and need to be smothered. While the temperatures you will work with are very low, safety is a habit that is very important. One that will carry over into any work you might want to perform with minerals, where the potential for injury or harm is dramatically more significant. Several well-intended critics have pointed out that some of the earlier materials produced failed to distinguish between spagyrics and alchemy. These critics claimed that they share common theory and methods, but in fact are two different areas of work. Spagyrics is really a part of alchemy, and in its most basic form is concerned with healing the body, similar in fashion to homeopathy. Unlike alchemy, however, it requires no special inner state on the part of the operator, and in this manner functions much like the natural magic of the Renaissance philosophers. Dubuis put it this way: Spagyrics essentially deals with bodily health. It is not an initiatory pursuit, whereas alchemy is the medicine of the soul and its true goal is initiatory. Spagyric operations, particularly operations of the vegetable kingdom, do not require a specific state from the operator. The link between work matter and operator is weak. On the contrary, in alchemy, the bonding between matter and operator is very strong, and no one can transmute anything if he hasn't transmuted himself first. In alchemy, the psychic quality of the operator is essential. There is another important difference. Spagyrics purifies the vessel in order to eliminate the toxic part, and then creates in the body a state of resonance that increases the level of energy considerably. Alchemy also purifies matter and its energies, but in addition, and this is the essential difference, it accelerates the evolution of matter. However, this point does give room for thought. If the proper attitude is not essential, but spagyrics still produces wondrous results, then what if a genuine attitude of heart and evolution is brought to the work? Can spagyric operations become alchemical if the operator brings the proper attitude to them? Given that certain spagyric products are initiatic in nature, the ends of Paracelsus in particular, some believe that spagyrics as a whole can be initiatic if the proper attitude is applied. It is left to each operator to decide this point. Students of quantum physics will also note the similarity between the statements regarding mineral work, the critical importance of the consciousness of the operator on the outcome, and modern findings on the influence of consciousness at the subatomic level. It has been my good fortune to know several of the leading lights of modern alchemy. After reading Frater Albertus's work, The Alchemist's Handbook, I sought to make contact with his Paracelsus Research Society, PRS, in Salt Lake City, Utah. By the time I contacted it in 1986, Albertus was dead, and the school was struggling to continue without its founder and leader. I then made plans to attend Amorque's Rose Croix University classes on alchemy, only to have to cancel them at the last moment. While I hoped to attend the following year, this was not to be. Amorque canceled the classes, and when they were reinstated, Russ House and Jack Glass were no longer the instructors. In the early 1990s, Gnosis, the leading journal for information on the Western esoteric traditions, carried a small ad for an organization in Colorado called the Philosophers of Nature, working under its parent organization's French name, Le Philosophe de la Nature, with the abbreviation LPN. It advertised itself as a school of traditional French alchemy and Qabala. I contacted the organization but received no reply. Several months later, a flyer for a seminar on alchemy arrived in my mailbox. I had never heard of the presenter and simply filed it away. Soon another flyer arrived. This one told of a week-long seminar at the Wild Rose Program Center in St. Charles, Illinois in September 1994. A man I had never heard of, Jean Dubuis, was the main presenter. However, the flyer listed Russ House and Jack Glass as teaching a 5-day class, 4 hours a day on spagyrics. I sent in my registration, and my life has never been the same since. A short article on this seminar appeared in Gnosis with the title, Pass the Sulfur, Mercury, and Salt, s'il vous plaît, at the time making me a minor celebrity among my esoteric colleagues. For those who attended this summer of alchemical love, it was truly a magical event. Many of esotericism's biggest and best names were present, along with at least a dozen alumni from Albertus's PRS days, including Kevin Townley, the president of LPN's American branch, LPN USA, Hans Nitzel, a man whose ability to annoy those around him was only exceeded by his love of alchemy, and Art Kunken, former editor of the Los Angeles Free Press. Nitzel and Kunken inherited various portions of Israel Regardie's estate when he died in 1985. Nitzel received several large mosaic tables and displays of Egyptian and Hermetic themes made by Regardie, and Kunken received Regardie's library and alchemical laboratory. Something not widely known is that Regardie studied alchemy at PRS. This changed his view that alchemy was only a speculative and symbolic study, as he had previously stated in his book The Philosopher's Stone. It is also important to note that Regardie injured his lungs during an experiment that went awry, and as a result needed to use oxygen later in life. A warning to us all, and good reason to proceed with caution. While it is easy to lament the passing of old friends, particularly those who are looked to as the greats in their field, it is important to remember that alchemy is a very personal path. We learn from others, but we must do the work ourselves. The tradition of alchemy is a vital and living one, and it will continue to be so for a long time, as long as human beings seek to understand and unlock the divine in matter, and as a result in themselves. As you proceed through this book, remember to make haste slowly. A little bit of work done regularly is better than a great deal done quickly and on occasion. Take time to pray and meditate as you undertake the experiments described in this book. Think of this not as a book, but as a conversation with a friend assisting you in your personal work. Hang a small picture of Thoth, Hermes, Flamel, Saint-Germain, or some other suitable alchemist in your laboratory, and imagine that it is they who are communicating these words to you. Let the meditation sink deep into your consciousness, so that there you may awake to find yourself in the company of your inner master. May these words bring you closer on your journey, and may each of you know that in your heart one day you will become the Philosopher's Stone. God bless you. In the Bonds of Esotericism, Mark Stavish, Director of Studies, Institute for Hermetic Studies, Wyoming, Pennsylvania, 24 July 2004. Chapter 1. Alchemy. An Introduction to the Royal Art. Chapter Overview. Why study alchemy? Egypt, the land of Chem. The key to all magic. Alchemy, long known for its massive symbolic tomes and metaphorical references to plants, minerals, and various elemental intelligences, is among the most mysterious of mystical arts. Visions of old men in funny hats bent over ovens for hours seeking to turn lead into gold, find the elixir of life, or create the Philosopher's Stone are commonplace in the popular imagination, as well as in occult circles. However, far from being an ancient pursuit whose goals are observed through the mists of time, alchemy is very much alive and has much to offer our current age. Alchemy's comprehensiveness can offer us tremendous insight into alternative therapies, new medicines, quantum physics, parapsychology, and the depths of the human mind. Why study alchemy? There are many reasons individuals pursue spiritual paths. Some try to fill a void in their lives that other activities, such as drugs, sex, shopping, and psychoanalytical therapy, are unable to satisfy. Others seek power, fame, and wealth, or maybe something simpler, like finding a new boyfriend or girlfriend. In the end, however, it is happiness that we all seek, regardless of the expression we think it will take when we first begin our journey. Of all the choices we can make in life, only a genuine spiritual practice can offer us the opportunity to discover freedom from spiritual ignorance and material suffering, and to develop our positive potential to its fullest. The art of alchemy is best described by Stanislas Klosowski de Rola in Alchemy, the Secret Art, his pictorial book on the great work. Alchemy is a rainbow bridging the chasm between the earthly and heavenly planes, between matter and spirit. Alchemy, the royal
Sample complete. Ready to continue?